the Transportation Committee to order. Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, February 17th. The time is 3:06 p.m. We are in room 1100 of the Minnesota Senate building. A quorum is present. Members, we have first, before I get going, we have 2 members who are attending remotely. So in accordance with the rules of the Senate, the following members will be participating remotely in today's hearing: Senator McEwen from Duluth, Minnesota, Senator Howe from St. Paul, Minnesota. All right, so 4 items on the agenda, hopefully not too substantive or weighty or long in duration. And we will start off at the top with Senate File 1360, Senator Johnson Stewart. And I'll invite Colonel Bogoyevich forward. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Senate File 1360 is a relatively simple bill which would increase the speed limit statewide for implements of husbandry, which, if you don't know, those are vehicles that are used in farming, nothing to do with actual husbandry. But anyway, this is a bill that would increase the speed limit to 35 miles an hour in all counties and all locations, and it was brought forward by the State Patrol. So it is a relatively simple bill. I am pleased to have Colonel Bogoyevich here to speak, and she is my only testifier.
Thank you. Colonel Bogoyevich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Christina Bogoyevich. I serve as the Colonel of the Minnesota State Patrol. As the Senator mentioned, this really just brings consistency across several different statutes as with implements of husbandry. And again, those are farm equipment, towable farm equipment. It bounced back and forth between 30 miles per hour and 35 miles per hour, and this is just offering consistency to 35 miles per hour without impacting safety.
Great, thank you so much. Members, any questions on Senate File 1360? And would anyone else like to testify on Senate File number 1360 who hasn't had an opportunity to sign up beforehand? Seeing none. Senator Johnson Stewart, final word and a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think it's important. Many of us have experience driving behind a implement of husbandry, otherwise known as a piece of farm equipment, not really knowing what the speed limit is. This is important for both users or drivers, but also those of us that are interacting with those vehicles on the road. It's important that we have consistency so that if a tractor crosses a county line or enters into a zone that has a different speed limit, there is no unintended consequence of speeding. So I appreciate the Colonel being here, and I ask for your support.
So Senator Johnson Stewart moves that Senate File 1360 be recommended to pass and referred to the Senate floor. Anything further, members? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members and Colonel.
All right, next up we have Senator Pratt with Senate File 823. Welcome, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I know this isn't a competition, but I think my bill's going to be even more simple than Senator Johnson Stewart's.
It's shorter.
Mr. Chair, back in 2023, there was money appropriated to the 169 Trunk Highway 282 project. There was a drafting error that's causing some problems with the cash flow. I've got Lisa Fries from Scott County here who can explain that, but we fixed part of it last year, but we missed this fix, and so it would just be appropriating money to MnDOT instead of to Scott County. And I'll let Ms. Fries talk about the need for that, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Welcome, Ms. Fries. Please introduce yourself for the record. Great to see you. Hopefully it's not our last time we see you at this committee. I know we've got a few months of your tenure left here, so please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Dibble and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Fries, and I'm the Scott County Transportation Services Director. And this bill essentially is one of, you made the correction last year on the MnDOT side. This essentially makes a correction on the Scott County side of funding. This is for the Scott County general fund improvements related to this interchange, so our County Road 9. And essentially what this does is allows the money to go directly to MnDOT versus us having to upfront the $4.9 million to MnDOT and then seek reimbursement over the time of the project. It's a 2.5-year project, so that would put a crimp in our cash flow if we had to upfront the whole $4.9 million. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I appreciate your consideration of this correction.
Great, thank you so much. Questions, members, for Engineer Freeze or Senator Pratt? All right, seeing none, Senator Jasinski, would you like to make the motion? I think we're just going to send this to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd recommend approving Senate File 823 and placing it on general orders.
All right, anything further, members? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pratt. All right, Senator Howe, Senate File 1158. Welcome, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. I'd like to move Senate File 1158 to be in front of the committee and be referred to State Gov.
State and local, yes. Okay, so that, so Senator Howe has moved Senate File 1158 to be recommended to pass and referred to state and local. All right, to the bill, Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And what this bill would do is actually, since we changed the state seal, all of the state trooper and state law enforcement badges have the old state seal on them, so they're getting new badges. What this would allow them, the law enforcement folks to do is to buy their badges. But actually what I'd like to do is offer the A2 amendment if I could, Mr. Chair.
Certainly, is that in front of us?
It was posted. I don't know if it's.
Oh, okay, it's coming around.
And what the
No.
what the A2 amendment does is basically change sell and to provide at no cost. So basically, they're going to hand them the badges if they want them, and that would be the change.
All right, I'm sorry. All right. All right, I'm sorry. I had someone in my ear. Can you explain the A2 again, please, Senator Howe?
Basically, the A2 amendment, Mr. Chair, is it deletes the sell badge piece just to give it to them if they want it.
All right.
So
this is an author's amendment, first committee stop, first hearing. All in favor of the A2, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right. So, Senator Howe, anything further? See, Mr. Ledoux is here, listed as a testifier or just here to support? Totally up to you.
well, if he wants to come and testify,
All right.
I will have Trooper Ledoux
Yeah,
come in.
please, by all means. All right, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Mike Ledoux. I've had the honor serving as a Minnesota State Trooper for 30 years. I'm the president of the Minnesota State Patrol Troopers Association, and I appear before you today in full support of Senate File 1158. I extend my gratitude to Senator Howe for his support of this legislation as well as the co-authors. Senate File 1158 is a straightforward, common sense measure that ensures state troopers, commercial vehicle inspectors, and Capitol security officers can purchase their badges when they become surplus due to the state seal update. For those who serve in law enforcement, a badge is more than just an identifier. It is a symbol of dedication, sacrifice, and commitment to protecting the people of Minnesota. Allowing current and retired personnel to purchase their surplus badges ensures these meaningful emblems remain in the hands of those who have earned them. Rather than discarding these badges as surplus, Senate File 1158 authorizes the Commissioner of Public Safety to oversee their sale at fair market value. This bill establishes a practical and reasonable process preventing waste by ensuring these badges are preserved as historical keepsakes, retirement mementos, or family heirlooms, rather than being discarded or destroyed. This bill also upholds tradition. For decades, troopers have had their badges pinned on them by family members during their swearing-in ceremonies. These badges hold deep sentimental value. They are not just pieces of metal, but a tangible representation of careers dedicated to public safety. Furthermore, SF 1158 provides a consistent and transparent process moving forward, ensuring future retirees have the same opportunity. This legislation strikes the right balance between fiscal responsibility, tradition, and respect for law enforcement personnel. By passing SF 1158, we honor the service of Minnesota's troopers while ensuring a practical and responsible approach to this surplus property. I sincerely hope this measure garners strong bipartisan support. Mr. Chair, I appreciate your time and consideration and would be happy to answer any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Trooper Ledoux. Questions, members? Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Howe, for bringing this bill forward, and thank you, Mr. Ledoux. I totally support it. Just one question. Apparently, I didn't get anything in my packet, sorry, but there was nothing in there, no bills, no nothing. What would happen, and I would assume everybody would want their badge previously, but what would happen if someone didn't want their badge? Does that have to be destroyed, or what's the process for it without this bill?
We do believe that they would, Mr. Chair, Senator Jasinski, I do believe that they would be just recycled, destroyed. So that's where they would end up.
Thank you. Fully support the bill. Thank you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Anything further, members? All right. I think this is one of those bills where you scratch your head that it actually has to be a law. It seems like the badge is your badge, and if the badge is retired, the design has changed. You just take the badge off, take it home, do whatever you want with it. So yeah, so you're always surprised when you see what look like common sense things that have to be subject to a law. But if it has to be, it has to be, and I'm very, very comfortable with providing them at no cost. Senator Howe.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if it's been asked or been talked. I just got here, but what happened to the fund, or what the selling of the badges, and it goes to
Senator
fund?
Howe.
Is there a fund?
I'll just cut you off at the pass. We amended the bill so that they're going to receive the
I see.
badges at no cost.
Sounds good.
They're just going to
Thank
take
you.
them off their uniform and get the new badge or the new patch, and no muss, no fuss.
Thank you.
But good question, or would have been a good question. Anything further, Senator Carlson?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess it does make me wonder. These are badges that have become obsoleted because of the emblem on them, and I guess I'm wondering if, I don't know if has there ever been a problem that we've had with badges that somehow get into the underground trading of badges, and is there any problem like that we have to make sure that people take care of these badges so that they're not stolen, lost, or get into a group that may use them for not such nice purposes for stopping people? And I would assume again that the badges are numbered so that you could find out where this badge came from. And then the follow-up question with that is what happens to the badges of people who actually leave service during their time of employment, do they turn in their badge, or are they allowed to keep their badge as well? I support this bill strongly, too.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Carlson. I do believe that this is actually more responsible to keep a handle on what happens to those badges than recycling them, because then it's, who knows what's going to happen to them. As far as if someone leaves service, what happens to the badge, I'll leave that to Trooper Ledoux maybe to answer, or maybe I have to go to Colonel Bogovich. So, which one of you would like to
Sergeant
answer
Ledoux?
that question?
Mr. Chair, Senator Carlson, I would say based on the drafting of the bill, if they left service and were not retired, that badge, if it had the new seal on it, would just be reissued to a new graduating trooper. That historically is what we've done with them. The difference here being the change of the seal means the badges are being replaced with that new logo that was created. I can tell you in my 10 years of being in my current position, in my 30 years as being a state trooper, I'm not aware of any instances where a former state trooper's badge was used in an illegal capacity, whether it be stopping cars, because there's much more that would need to go along with that. It has not been a problem for us. And thirdly, I believe you could probably get a pretty close replica online from a number of vendors in the current world that would look realistic. But again, the importance to these men and women is the fact that in many instances these badges are pinned on by mothers, fathers, children, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Carlson. Very good. Anything further, members? No. So Senator Howe renews his motion to recommend Senate File 1158 be passed as amended and referred to the Senate floor. Anything further? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Howe. All right, Senator Howe, we'll move on to the next and final bill, Senate File 1395. One moment. All right, so Senator Howe, the amendment that we've been working on together is in process. So why don't you go ahead and start presenting the bill, and I know we have at least one testifier, and then we'll talk about changes that we may or may not want to the bill.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senate File 1395 basically has to do with signage for outside automatic external defibrillators, so AEDs in commonplace. And so what has happened is there has been a movement. We've had AEDs in a lot of different buildings. They're all over the place. The problem is if you have a medical emergency needing an AED and it's inside the building and it's after 4 or 5 o'clock, you can't get to them. So we have been placing AEDs on the exterior of buildings in outside cabinets that are heated and tied to the internet. And so that makes them available to everybody after hours. The issue is many people don't know where they're at. So these signs would actually help direct them to where these outside external AEDs are. They have been putting up signs in a lot of local cities and counties. They've had a hard time getting them up on state highways. So this bill would help not only put them on state highways, but also in the local jurisdictions to allow people to actually see where those AEDs are and direct them to get those emergency devices and possibly save lives. And I think that my testifier will, he's been actively involved in the business of making these things available to people, and his name is Rich Fenice.
All right, and members, also there's some material in your packets from Advocates for Health and some graphics and things like that. So I will call on Mr. Finnice, if you could please pop on to Zoom, and we'll let you know when we can see you, and then you can introduce yourself.
Hopefully you're seeing me.
We see your name, but we hear you, so go ahead and introduce yourself and proceed.
There we go.
There we are.
My name is Rich Finnice. I'm the founder of Advocates for Health. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're in the business, as Senator Howe has mentioned, of putting AEDs in outside cabinets that we refer to as AED smart monitored cabinets, so that they're available to the public 24/7, 365 days a year. As Senator Howe had also mentioned, we typically work with county, township, and cities to put directional signs in place so that people are aware that there are outside AEDs available. I'll use as an example, in the city of St. Joseph on the Government Center, City Hall, they have one of our AED smart monitor cabinets mounted on the wall. They have put directional signs on the street in front of the Government Center with an arrow left or right, depending, showing that that's available. It's pretty standard practice in every location that we have. It only makes good sense to make people aware of the fact there are a life-saving AED available. My package showed the samples of what we've used in the past, and we typically will mount them on existing sign structures. We work with the, again, county, township, or city engineering department to either put it on an existing structure, or in some cases where there isn't one available, the city, in a case like, for instance, the city of Sartell willingly puts up U-channel posts so that we can install those. We're looking at the issue of adding these to state highways and federal highways. In the case of Cold Spring in Richmond, we have 20 units in and around the city, yet we're not allowed to tell the people traveling on Highway 23 that there is a life-saving AED available for them to use. I attached some various documents regarding how we can work with the Department of Transportation to accomplish this. I should mention that my background is in the logo sign business, the blue gas, food, lodging, and camping signs that are on the interstate that have McDonald's and Burger King. And we work with the Department of Transportation throughout the United States to accomplish what they refer to as wayfinding. And again, when you get off the interstate and you're looking for a restaurant, if it's not readily available, when you get off the interstate, there are directional signs left or right and the distance of how far it is. So what we're trying to do is, again, make more people aware of life-saving AEDs being available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finnice. Questions for Mr. Finnice, members? All right, I saw Senator Johnson Stewart has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it Finnice?
Finnice.
Finnice rhymes with thin ice.
Aha, that's what I thought. I appreciate that. I just received the A1 amendment, and my question did pertain to the 60.
We're going to be working off the A4.
Oh, did I say A1? A4.
Yep.
I said A, I meant A4.
All right.
Anyway, I do see that you've extended the number of days. My concern was that if this did require the installation of a sole solitary sign, because at the end of a ramp, there may be a need for a sign if there isn't one there. Just wanted to make sure that you had additional time. And then I don't see any cost. Is there a cost? Who typically covers the cost of these signs? That's my question.
The party that is benefiting
Mr.
from
Finnice,
that would be the one that would be paying that. So there would be no cost to the state.
Mr. Finnice, just please pause and wait for me to call on you before you respond.
I'm sorry.
And address your comments through me. Thank you.
Okay.
So did you get your answer? I'm sorry. All right. Could you repeat yourself, please, Mr. Finnice?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, any costs that are involved are paid by the participants where the AED is installed. So there would be no cost to the state in this case, as is there no cost to the county and townships we deal with right now.
So Senator Johnson Stewart, I think that is actually provided for in the underlying bill. Sorry, can you point to us where the costs are accounted for?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, on page 1, lines 1.9, or 19 and 20, it specifies that all costs associated with the installation, maintenance, and removal of signage must be paid by qualified participants. And then the A4 amendment that will soon be offered also provides that those costs must be directed to the relevant road authority. So if there was an uncertainty about where those costs may be remitted as part of the signs installation or erection, that that those are directed to the road authority.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So just for clarification, and this is a great bill. I really am in support of it. What does qualified participants mean? That's the people that own the defibrillator?
Mr. Greenfield.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee and Senator Johnson Stewart, that's correct. That's the location or the business that has the defibrillator that meets the specific qualifying requirements. And the A4 provides even further criteria and clarity as to what constitutes a qualifying participant. And once we get before the amendment, I can highlight that, but there's a specific paragraph that will set forth those criteria.
So why don't we get to the amendment?
I have one
All right, go
final.
ahead.
I'm
Senator
so sorry.
Johnson Stewart.
All right, Mr. Chair. My question is one of these signs already been standardized in the work you've done before, Senator Howe? And if so, is it just secured, like, is the thought that you would just secure it to the top of an exit sign, like where it said gas or hospital or something like that?
Senator Johnson Stewart. I think, yeah, I went through this with Senator Howe earlier. He has an explanation, or Mr. Finnice, yeah. Kind of where these signs would be stuck.
Mr. Chair and
Senator Howe.
Senator Johnson Stewart, those signs that you picked up in that handout, those are the ones that they're looking at putting on, like the restaurant type sign with the distance. The ones that we have out here now, I don't know if you see them, but they're kind of, I don't know, I don't have it. I don't know if you've got it in your packet. I think you might have it someplace, but it basically says cardiac restart, life-saving AED with an arrow.
Okay.
It kind of looks like this.
Oh, I didn't
but
see this. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's kind of a red with white
That's
that we
great.
put up. And
you.
those usually just get put on an existing signpost, and it's a couple of bolts, and that's why we have the difference between 60 and 180 days. It'll be on the A4 amendment when we get to it here.
All right, so Senator Howe, did you want to offer the A4?
Yes,
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer the A4 amendment.
All right. And even though it's an author's amendment, it's kind of involved. So, Mr. Greenfield, would you mind walking us through it? Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the A4 is an amendment that attempts to reorganize and also provide some substantive changes to the underlying Bill 13, Senate File 1395. The first instruction adds a definition of a public access automatic external defibrillator with the existing statutory reference for those devices. The next three instructions are technical in nature. And then beginning on the instruction, page 1, line 15, delete everything after the period, that is just moving as part of the qualifying participant criteria that are then established in the next instruction in paragraph C. So then the new paragraph C just specifies existing requirements that are already in Senate File 1395, but just reorganized in clauses that the qualifying participant must follow all registration, notice, and inspection requirements that's already provided in existing law for AEDs. They must place the device in an easily recognizable and accessible location, and they have to identify the device with conspicuous and visible signage on the premises. And then the paragraph D begins the lead-in for what is on the existing law, the existing bill, the old paragraph B, talking about the local authority receiving the request and then the timeline in which they have to establish the sign or place the sign. The substantive difference, however, is that on 1.15 and 1.16 of the amendment, that provides that the relevant road authority has to determine a suitable location and appropriate number of signs under the requirements of this section to clearly identify the location and place appropriate signage at the location of the qualifying businesses. In short, this is trying to create the process and the deliberation of where the appropriate place is to place these signs before obligating the entity to actually establish that signage. So it is a slight substantive difference, but it is also technically more precise as to what's expected of the road authority upon receiving the request. And then the remaining few instructions are technical in nature. The last two, the first affects the effective date of the first section. It changes it from the day following final enactment to October 1, 2025, which allows the Department of Transportation and stakeholders to come up with signage for incorporation into the Minnesota Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and then blinks on a month later after the department is supposed to have notified the revisor about the signage being incorporated. And then the final substantive requirement is a provision that the commissioner must maintain information about the signage program on its website as essentially best practices or guidance for a local authority that may have questions about where to place the signage upon request from a qualifying participant. So that is the A4 amendment, kind of a combination of technical and substantive changes.
Great. Any questions there? All right, all in favor of the A4, say aye. Senator Johnson Stewart? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Senator Johnson Stewart, I have Senator Jasinski ahead of you. And Senator Nelson. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, and thank you, Senator Howe, for bringing this. I support the idea. I just have a question of practicality. So I'm on a lake association, or I'm on a lake and I have a lake association. The lake has 4 of them. We pay for those batteries out of our lake association dues every year. Comes out of there. It's relatively expensive to do the batteries and things like that, but we feel as a lake association it's important, so we do it. I think we either have 4 or 5 different roads coming. There's about 5 different separate accesses to the lake. And actually, the one that I'm located on, you actually come off a trunk highway trunk highway, then you go down a county road, and then the county road turns into a township road. So in this instance, you know, it could be overwhelming for a lake association to pay those extra fees for signs. My question is, so how many of those signs would be located? Because again, they're on the lake. It's mostly meant for lake access, AED access. It's not really a road thing. But if you have to have 5 different roads and 3 or 4 different jurisdictions on these roads, does that become overwhelming for a lake association like mine to have to pay for, let's say it's 10 or 15 signs? I'm just asking, or is it voluntary? If the lake association decides they want to have them posted, do they? We post them on the lake and then on the roadside, but how many of these signs would have to be done in this case? Long question, sorry, but I'm just trying to get the practicality of how this would work.
Senator Howe.
Mr. Chair and Senator Jasinski, the Lake Association would determine if they want those signs there and how many and at what locations they'd want them. So that would be totally up to the Lake Association to determine that. So they would have control if they want to put all of them up, if they want to just put a couple up, or they want to do them as they go in a few years, but it would be totally up to the participant business or whatever to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Howe. All I needed to hear was local control, and it's up to them. I'm okay with that, so I support the bill.
Who is next? Senator Nelson? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a great idea. I am just curious about, we have an AED registry. Actually, I think that was my sophomore year, actually, in this body. I think that was my bill, and so I'm just kind of refreshing here. And I'm thinking about some of the conversations we had at that time. And one of them had to do with, as we're talking about signage, which is so important, so people know, every minute can be a life-saving minute or not. that a lot of times, where do we go for a lot of information? Whether we're driving or not, we look on our iPhones. And I'm just curious if one of our researchers can tell me, at the time, I think we did not get through the registry part where it could be on a platform, a digital platform. So no matter where you are, I remember sitting in G15 saying, well, if there was presenting my bill, if there was someone who had a heart attack, where would you go for the AED? We didn't know. Even just sitting in that building that we know, would we know now? And so the question is, if someone can just tell me, I support this totally, Senator Howe. I'm just wondering about even making it better so that people are not limited to seeing a sign on the road. In other words, we have a registry that it's on your phone, and you can see exactly where the public registry IEDs are, and I'm just wondering, do we have something like that now? I think we talked about it years ago, but do any of our researchers have that information?
Mr. Greenfield, do you know the answer to Senator Nelson's question?
Chair Dibble and Senator Nelson, I don't know whether there's a consolidated mobile database that would be accessible, but I do know that the registry does maintain a publicly facing website to the extent that's searchable or usable by the average public. I'm not familiar necessarily, but I can check into that and work with research to find a more concise answer.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I see Mr. Finnice would like to respond to the question. Mr. Finnice.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, there is currently an app out there called Pulse Point. And Pulse Point was all the units that we put up in all the units, AED units we find in the community, we register with Pulse Point. If you pull that up, it will show every location in the state, actually in the country, anywhere in the country. And it's a free application.
We learned something. We hope every day to learn something new. My mom would always ask me when I came home, did you learn something new today?
Right. Well,
Now I
thank you,
can
Mr.
answer
Chair.
yes.
If I could just add one thing
Senator
to
Nelson.
that. Thank you so much. I just want to thank you for that information. I think this is important. I'm going to put this out. My constituents need to know this. We need to know this. This is an access as well. So thank
Definitely.
you for pointing that out, and for Pulse Point, and I'll check with Senator Howe on how to make sure we get that correct information to let people know. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also think this is a great idea, so thank you, Senator Howe. And I just have a gentle recommendation. So I did find the pictures of the signs in the memo from Mr. Finnice's organization, and I would just recommend a little bit of change to the signage, because when I looked at this, I'm like, cardiac, like at high speed, we know it's really hard to see what this is. You guys may not see it, but they use a little broken heart for the A. I would just recommend, and you will probably get this as you apply for inclusion in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that the life-saving AED be made the primary piece of the sign. And I love the cardiac restart, but it confused me, and I'm at least as smart as the average Joe, and I didn't get it. So anyway, that's just my recommendation. And thank you again. This is a really important bill.
Great. Thank you. Anything further, members? Senator Jasinski.
Mr. Chair, just for a trivial point, so I went AED near me and I searched that, and I got a bunch of places that sell AEDs, and the next one was Open AED Map, and it allowed you to search, so I put 55021, and for some reason it brought me to Poland over in Europe, but you know, that might be a hint, but I think the app would be smart to have, because most people would, you know, that's the quickest thing, they'd Google it, AED near me, and unfortunately, right now, it shows up where you can buy them, not where they're actually at, so. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Senator Carlson, did I see you? Okay. All right. And some of these, to the point you made, Senator Johnson-Stewart, I think part of the delay in the effective date is to have that conversation with the Department of Transportation. Hopefully they're not going to come up with a big fiscal note because we're making them do stuff. So we'll definitely hear from them if we do. But Senator Howe is on his way to state and local as well, so there's more opportunity for more conversation. All right, anything further? Would anyone else like to testify? All right. So Senator Howe renews his motion that Senate File 1395, as amended, be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. That concludes our agenda for the day. Members, Wednesday, we're going to take up some issues pertaining to deputy registrars, driver's license agents, driver's licenses, things like that. It happens to be their lobby day on the Hill. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.